Well, first of all, a preemptive pardon, I think history is going to judge him harshly for accepting this. You don't have to accept a presidential pardon, but if you do accept a pardon, the Supreme Court has ruled that you also are accepting guilt. So he now has accepted guilt or culpability for the pandemic.
A state attorney general is set to lead an investigation into Dr. Anthony Fauci and his role in research of dangerous viruses. President Donald Trump's attorney general Pam Bondi issues a stern warning to sanctuary cities. The press is in trouble for allegedly leaking future ICE raids. And the new U.S. Border Patrol chief has some good news for the American people. Guys, I got a lot in store for today's video, so let's get back to Dr. Anthony Fauci real quick. Appreciate y'all hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and for sharing this video. I appreciate the support, guys. Now, remember when he said this years before the pandemic even started?
I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID, will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
This was back in 2017, years before the terms social distancing and masking became a constant topic in conversations. Now, of course, it's pretty easy to assume that Dr. Anthony Fauci knew about everything that was happening. And if we go by what former President Joe Biden did for him, that was to provide with a preemptive pardon. We would all realize that there's no doubt that this guy knew what was going to happen. Senator Rand Paul was recently on the Hill where he talked about this pardon and why it probably won't protect Dr. Anthony Fauci from justice.
So on the Fauci front, you mentioned this pause in gain-of-function research that existed that was decreed by President Obama back in 2014. I found it curious, and I know many other people did too, so I want to get your take, that this preemptive pardon for Dr. Fauci covers not just the time he was overseeing the COVID response, and also not his entire career in public service, which goes back to the 80s, but specifically kicks in based on the order in 2014, the year the pause went into effect. But we know from hearing Fauci's deposition that even under that pause, you could, under national security exceptions, which you and I know ends up getting abused to cover just about anything, that Dr. Fauci may have signed off on some research anyway, even when the pause was initiated in 2014. Do you have concern that this pardon is structured then to help him avoid scrutiny from what took place there?
Well, first of all, a preemptive pardon, I think history is going to judge him harshly for accepting this. You don't have to accept a presidential pardon, but if you do accept a pardon, the Supreme Court has ruled that you also are accepting guilt. So he now has accepted guilt or culpability for the pandemic. And going all the way back to 2014, there were a lot of decisions made. A lot of decisions on funding the research go back a few years before the actual accident occurred. So, yes, I'm concerned with this. But I think in the end, this ends up being more damage to Fauci's reputation than just about anything else. It also makes him liable to testify. He's no longer gets Fifth Amendment immunity and says, I can't testify because I might be prosecuted for having broken the law. So if he is made to testify again in the future, he will not be able to take the Fifth Amendment. We don't know if that'll happen, but the first thing we're going to do is get the documents for what was the deliberation, who made the deliberation, and who signed off on approving the money going to Wuhan. And if he's in that loop somewhere, ultimately he will be made to come in and testify.
Dr. Anthony Fauci was again given a preemptive pardon by former President Joe Biden, but a federal pardon doesn't necessarily keep him safe. That is, if states investigate and find that crimes were committed. So here's the bad news for the doctor.
South Carolina's Attorney General Alan Wilson is leading a coalition of state attorneys general to investigate Dr. Anthony Fauci's role in the COVID-19 response. They claim mismanagement, misleading statements, and even suppression of scientific debate by Fauci.
AG Wilson has this to say about President Biden's pardon of Fauci. President Biden's blanket pardon of Dr. Anthony Fauci is a shameful attempt to prevent accountability. If any of these findings indicate violations of state laws, we are fully prepared to take appropriate action to ensure justice is served. Now, Wilson here, he's talking about the findings from the congressional report on Fauci, evidence that does suggest that the doctor worked to discredit the lab leak theory, one that the CIA has recently said is actually plausible. Now, there's also these allegations of him misleading Congress on NIH funding and gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, mismanagement of taxpayer funds, and let's not forget about the suppression of scientific dissent, meaning that they silenced prominent scientists who went against their COVID narrative. This includes the risks that were related to the vaccines. And at this moment, 17 state attorneys generals have signed on to the same letter, urging congressional leaders to continue their investigations. This is so that the responsible parties can be held accountable for their actions. Now, moving on, guys, AG Pam Bondi, in her first interview after her confirmation, had a firm warning for sanctuary cities. Watch.
You've cracked down on sanctuary cities. The DOJ has put a pause on all federal funding to sanctuary cities and states. You filed a lawsuit against Chicago and the state of Illinois for being a sanctuary city. Am I wrong in my interpretation that a sanctuary city is aiding and abetting in lawbreaking?
Sean, what they're doing is they are choosing illegal aliens over the safety and security of their own citizens and the men and women of law enforcement who are out there trying to protect their citizens. Not only did we sue today the city of Chicago, we sued the state of Illinois, we sued the mayor, we sued the governor, and we sued others. And let me be very clear, if you don't comply with federal law, you're going to be next.
Now, it's not all going according to plan. Rumors have come out that gang members of the Tren de Aragua were tipped off about the arrival of ICE. Bondi was asked about it, and here's what she told Sean Hannity.
What about those that we now know apparently tipped off the Tren de Aragua gang in Colorado prior to an ICE raid? Obviously, that would be breaking the law. Will we get to the bottom of that?
Yeah, Sean, absolutely. And, you know, that risk the lives of our great men and women in law enforcement. I mean, this is horrific what these people are doing to try to destroy our country, truly, and jeopardize the lives of law enforcement and our citizens. And Tom Homan is absolutely right to be appalled and furious. But we will all get to the bottom of this. And, you know, Donald Trump has created an incredible team of people who truly, we were pre-existing friends, so many of us. We get along great and we work so well together. And we truly like each other and we support everything President Trump is doing. And we are all here to protect our country. And that's what it's all about right now, Sean, keeping America safe.
Despite the pushback from those who want to keep criminals in our country, Border Patrol is reporting a lot of good news.
U.S. Border Patrol Chief Michael Banks joins us now. Chief, welcome to the program. Congratulations. As people may or may not know, you used to be the Texas Border Czar. You were a Border Patrol agent before that, and you come on back home to get our border secure. Talk about these latest numbers that you have and how you guys have been able to get it done, Chief.
So look, the U.S. Border Patrol, we know how to get the job done. We know how to secure the border. All we needed was a president that was going to empower us, a strong leader like President Trump, and then a secretary like Secretary Noem that knows exactly what we need to do to secure the border. We're seeing almost a 90% decrease in illegal entries since January the 21st. Not only that, but our criminal prosecutions of those we're apprehending is up almost 52%. You talked about, you led in with the Tren de Agua. Our U.S. Border Patrol BORTAC unit is out there with ICE making those arrests. And so, look, Border Patrol knows how to secure the border. All we needed was an administration that would let us enforce the law. And we're out there and we are seeing phenomenal gains on the border.
Banks also confirmed that the leaks may have come from the media. tipping off activists who in turn warned criminals about the ICE raids. He said that not only is this dangerous for our own officers, but it's creating danger for the communities where these criminals are hiding. He called these people irresponsible and that the press should be held accountable for their actions. Do you guys support that idea? Now, I want you guys to watch a previous video I did. In it, I talked about Border Czar Tom Homan and his call for government officials to be held accountable as well. And you're not going to want to miss this one because Tom Homan means business. As always, thanks for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and for sharing this video. I'll talk to you guys on the next one.